Welcome into Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That still is not Wade Neely. He's expected back tomorrow, maybe. We'll see. That is David Wilson, sports editor of the Robertson County Connection, who has been kind enough to join us here for the next couple of hours as we talk sports of local, regional, and national importance. So, David, welcome to the show. We appreciate you taking some time out of your oh-so-busy schedule to be with us.
Yeah, always good to fill in for Wade. As I said last week, still the better looking of your co-hosts. I know Blaine Keller filled in yesterday, so maybe that was a little bump up from Wade, but I think we got the best looking one on the staff here today, filling in with you.
Well, there are those that would tell me that I have a face for radio. Now, I'm not going to say that you're in that category as well, but I do appreciate and enjoy your confidence. So we'll leave it at that. Again, we're going to be here for the next couple of hours talking sports. So appreciate you joining us. Stick around. In the next hour, we will be joined by Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City, talking a little NASCAR and catching up on how she's doing, because she had to fill in on some post-Hurricane Helene coverage up there, and I imagine she's probably trying to catch her breath and get a little rest, but she's going to visit with us at 3:20. At 2:20, in the next segment, we will be joined by Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio. You may or may not know, but the Predators are getting ready to open their regular season tomorrow night down at Bridgestone as the Dallas Stars come to town. So we will get Ann's thoughts on what to expect out of this team. Obviously, it was an eventful offseason for the Nashville Predators, and the preseason kind of felt like it lived up to the hype at times. But again, she's a lot closer to it than we are, and we'll have a way better feel for that. So looking forward to visiting with Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio in the next segment as well. We'll talk a little baseball, even though David and my Braves are long gone. There's still Major League Baseball being played, and we should probably acknowledge it. So we will do that later in the show. We'll also be talking a little WNBA. They're down to 2 teams. We'll be talking some NFL, some Titans. Titans made some moves here over the last 24 hours, one of which I thought was particularly intriguing. Looking forward to kind of discussing that here. And then it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. In the final segment of the show, we will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. And some of it's kind of close to home, relatively speaking anyway, but looking forward to this. There is some pretty wild and pretty wacky stuff that we will be touching on in that final segment. So David, have you had a chance to look at any of the wild and wacky stuff that we've got lined up?
I previewed a little bit of it. I'm going to go back and look at it right now since you said that. I kind of got caught off guard the last time I filled in. I think it was 2 months ago on the Wild and Wacky segment. So I'm more prepared now on the wackiness that'll be in store. But I've seen a few of it, so I'm ready to go.
There is some weirdness, some wildness, some wackiness. We're looking forward to delivering it. So that's what we've got here over the next hour. Almost 2 hours. So let's go ahead and get started into it with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
David, start us up with some volleyball scores.
Yeah, going to the volleyball hardwood last night, Murfreesboro Central Magnet with a 3-1 win over Community. And I guess this is a try match going on in the district tournament down there. Eagleville completed a sweep over Fayetteville and Colioca last night. Lawrence County with a 3-0 win over Franklin County. Cookeville with a 3-0 sweep of Lebanon. Lebanon with a 3-1 win over White County. Loretto with the 3-0 sweep of Lewis County. Spring Hill 3-0 winners over Shelbyville. Cookeville with a 3-2 win over Stewart's Creek in 5 sets. Stone Memorial with a 3-1 win over Watertown. Loretto with a 3-0 sweep of Summertown. Summertown with a 3-0 sweep of Collinwood, and Zion Christian with a 3-2 win over FC Boyd Christian.
In girls soccer action last night in the District 9 AAA semifinals, it was Columbia Central 2, Shelbyville 1. Coverage of that, in fact, at mainstreetmurray.com. Be sure and check that out. Hey, one volleyball score that is not mentioned for whatever reason. Columbia Central defeated Tullahoma 3-0 also in district tournament action. I don't know where that got to. But anyway, back to soccer. Fairview with a 9-0 win over Creekwood. It was Franklin Road Academy 7, Webb School of Bell Buckle. The Lady Feet 7-1. Franklin Road Academy over Webb. Providence Christian 2, Nashville Christian 0. Rossview with a 3-1 win over Kirkwood. It was Tullahoma doubling up Murfreesboro Central 4-2, and University School of Nashville with a 6-1 win over Donaldson Christian. Major League Baseball action. Both of these were game 3s of the NLDS. On the East Coast, it was the New York Mets with a 7-2 win over the Philadelphia Phillies. On the West Coast, it was San Diego 6, Los Angeles 5. That Los Angeles would be the Dodgers, not the Angels. And in WNBA semifinal action, Game 5, the Minnesota Lynx closed out the Connecticut Sun 88-77.
Today's schedule, moving on, Major League Baseball continuing on with 4 games this afternoon, kicking off right here with first pitch shortly in 1 minute, actually. The Guardians going to Detroit to face the Tigers at 2:08. That one is on TBS. That is Game 3 of the American League Division Series. At 4:08, the Philadelphia Phillies will face elimination as they face the New York Mets up in Queens. That is Game 4 of the National League Division Series. You can find that one on FS1. The New York Yankees and the Kansas City Royals continue their series up in Kansas City at 6:08 on TBS later tonight. That is Game 3 of the American League Division Series. That series is tied 1-1. And then the San Diego Padres will look to complete the series win over their arch nemesis, the Los Angeles Dodgers, tonight out at Petco Park at 8:08 first pitch. That is on FS1.
Ladies and gentlemen, seeing no old business, no new business, that is your rundown. Top story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch items available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m., as well as their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And we had, as we typically do on Tuesdays, we had the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, on with us yesterday. And we discussed I'm not sure if retirement is the right phrase, but Dick Palmer is stepping away from his duties as the voice of the Lady Raiders, the women's basketball program at Middle Tennessee State. And we discussed that move, and we discussed briefly and vaguely his successor, but we were told that it would be announced about an hour and a half after we went off the air, because that so often seems to be the case with Main Street Sports today. We are a little early. But we have that news, and as Chip intimated, it's pleasant news. Middle Tennessee State graduate Joe Fisher, Antioch High School graduate Joe Fisher, is stepping into that role as the voice of the Lady Raiders. Obviously, a familiar name, a familiar voice from his lengthy tenure at Vanderbilt University, former anchor on WSMV, among other things, and has done a great job everywhere he's been. And this is a great get for Middle Tennessee State to be able to bring a graduate home in that role, and looking forward to listening to him. He's going to do a great job. So congrats to Joe, and congrats to Chris Massaro and the powers that be over at MTSU for making this happen.
Yeah, someone whose mother graduated from the great Vanderbilt University, and she's still reveling in their win over Alabama from last week. A lot of my childhood was listening to Joe Fisher on the radio. I can remember his call vividly of Vanderbilt's World Series win in 2013, I believe. That
14.
dreams do come true. So just a remarkable voice, a remarkable talent, and he will be very well liked at NTSU as he comes back home.
Absolutely. I mean, I just think as fits go, this is a perfect one. We're excited that Joe is coming on board with us. Joe is a Middle Tennessee guy. He called games for Vanderbilt for a number of years. We're excited to welcome him into one of the top programs in the country. Cedric Insel, subtly. Dick Palmer, I know this position will be in good hands moving forward. I've known Joe for many years. He's an outstanding broadcaster. He did games in the Southeastern Conference for many years. And the best thing is he will fit right in as a Blue Raider. So, again, a great get for Middle Tennessee State. Nice to know that Joe is going to be back on the airwaves and handling Lady Raider basketball. So, looking forward to that. I will tell you that our rundown and our top story did not go as long as they typically do, Mark. So I'm a little stressed for time here all of a sudden. Any thoughts you want to share with us before we bring Ann Kimmel in here in a bit?
You talking to Mark? You talking to myself?
I was talking to Mark.
Oh.
I'm hoping Mark's going to bail me out here for a little bit because, like I said, we are a little short on content for segment 1 here.
Let's just go to a break and I'll contact Ann. How about that?
All right, let's do that. Let's go to a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, we will see if we can get Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio in a little early to talk a little Predators. Stick around. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Ockley Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome back to Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson sitting in for Wade Neely, who will have some big news for us when he comes back. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are pleased to be joined now by Penalty Box Radios and KIMMEL as we get geared up, get schooled up for the Nashville Predators regular season opener tomorrow night against the Dallas Stars down at Bridgestone Arena. And good Wednesday.
Good Wednesday, gentlemen. I'm excited to be here, and I think I speak for a lot of Nashville Predators fans when it is time to drop the puck on this season. Everybody's ready.
You know, and this offseason really kind of created some buzz around this team, as we've talked at various points throughout the offseason with some of the acquisitions, some of the moves that a aggressive Barry Trotz made that have really kind of put the Predators at the forefront, not just locally, but, you know, somewhat on a national level across the NHL. I think expectations for this team heading into this 2024-25 season are significantly higher than they have been maybe the last few years. And, you know, did we see anything in the preseason that made us back off of those?
I don't think you saw anything in the preseason that's going to change the expectations for this team over the course of 82 games. I will say I think it's going to take a little bit of time for new additions like Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault to really build chemistry and to become totally comfortable in a new system under Andrew Brunette. But I don't think that kind of ramping up that they'll need at game speed in the regular season is going to take very long. And I think Nashville has earned the spotlight nationally with the moves that Barry Trotz made. I love that you called them aggressive. He went shopping and he came home with a lot of improvements for the Nashville Predators. So I think the buzz is very legitimate. And I think this team is legitimate. I think this is probably the best team on paper, perhaps in franchise history. I think this team is generating more buzz or as much buzz as they did going into the season after that Stanley Cup run where everybody kind of felt like they're going to repeat this. This is a very different opening night feel for the Nashville Predators.
And it's interesting that you said it may take some time, you know, for some folks to kind of get, you know, indoctrinated in terms of the regular season. And I think a lot of Predators fans, well, I think Predators fans and Tennessee Titans fans, if you drew a Venn diagram, I think there's a lot of overlap there. And I think that Titans fans kind of saw that for all of the acquisitions that team made over the offseason. It kind of took some time for them to gel, or there are those that would wonder if they have gelled. But, I mean, I don't know that it's going to be the same type scenario with the Predators as they get started. But, you know, to your point, when you bring that many new people in, getting everybody on the same page doesn't just happen overnight.
It doesn't happen overnight, and it is a different system for Steven Stamkos, who, remember, has played his entire career in a completely different franchise. This is the first time Steven Stamkos has moved as an NHL player. This is the first time that he has had different line mates for several seasons. So it's a big change. Jonathan Marchessault, the same. He's coming off of years in Vegas. So I think it's okay to expect that those guys are going to take maybe a little bit longer for what was second nature in their previous homes to become second nature for the Nashville Predators. We saw a little glimpse of that last season with the team because Andrew Brunette came in and brought a new system, and it really took the team, I would say about half a season to get to where Andrew Brunette's system became natural for them. And so I think it's fair to expect that that may take a little bit of time. Now, Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault have a very high ceiling, and they are very smart hockey players. So I think the two of them won't probably need a half a season to get warmed up, but I think it's a good idea to be patient and give them a couple of weeks, maybe a month, to kind of get warmed up and get settled in. It's a big change.
Hey, and I'll jump
David,
in.
you look like you had something to say. Yeah.
Hey, and nice to meet you. Obviously, there's a lot of star power on this team. Stamkos, Yossi, etc., Forsberg. Talk about some guys on the lines that are going to be jail guys, maybe some guys that are kind of underrated going into the year that are going to play big roles in the success of this team.
That's a great question because so much of the attention is on those big names, especially the new big names. But you are absolutely right that there are some core players that are going to be essential to this team, and they're not necessarily your glamorous players. But I want to throw out a name like Cole Smith. Cole Smith is a fourth line guy, but he is one of those players, and that line that he plays on is going to be a difference maker for this team because they go out, they hunt the puck, they are very good when it comes to maintaining possession and kind of getting that first shot on goal, getting an offensive zone faceoff for that top line. He's great on the penalty kill as well, not afraid to shoot a shorthanded shot. So you need players like Cole Smith. Another one that I would keep my eye on is Phil Tomasino. And he has had sort of an up and down relationship with the Nashville Predators and with Andrew Brunette last season and ended up in Milwaukee. But he has come into training camp with just a different vibe, a different attitude, and really has spent the preseason showing off his skill set and his understanding of what Andrew Brunette wants. And so that's a young player too, who I think could be an impact player. This is an exciting roster, not just because of the big names, but because there are some really quality depth players that can make a difference for this team.
Yeah. Mo mentioned it earlier in his first question. This team went shopping in the winter, tried to jump in the arms race that is the Western Conference with a lot of talented teams. Obviously, Edmonton making it to the finals last year. Dallas is a really good team in Colorado as well. What do you feel like this roster after free agency stacks up in a really loaded Western Conference?
The Western Conference is brutal. The Central Division, a nightmare. But on paper, I think the Nashville Predators become a competitive team. Now, I will say I like their chances maybe a season from now where everybody is a little bit more settled in. But I do think this is a team that's going to make the postseason. They're going to battle with Colorado and with Dallas in the Central Division. I do predict that probably Nashville will finish behind Colorado and Dallas. I just think those two teams have a lot of experience and they're just a little bit further along. But I think Nashville will make it to the postseason. I think they need to make a statement in the first round and win the first round and be competitive in the second round. And I think you call that a success for your first season with these new players. So I like the way Nashville looks. They look great on paper. Now we just got to convert it to wins on the ice.
And Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio joining us here on Main Street Sports today as we get ready for the Nashville Predators and the Dallas Stars. Puck drop 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And what are you expecting to see tomorrow night specifically?
Well, that's become a very interesting question as of this morning, because this morning at practice, we were told UC Saros is day to day with a lower body injury. So the question now becomes, who is going to be in net against the Dallas Stars on opening night? Of course, the assumption has always been it will be UC Saros. This may turn out to be Scott Wedgwood's revenge game. He is another one of the signings that the Predators made, came from the Dallas Stars. So there is a chance we could see Scott Wedgwood in net, which becomes a whole thing.
It becomes a
So
whole thing. And again, going back to the Titans, it's so reminiscent of, Malik Willis coming in here against for the Packers and starting against the Titans in what, week 2, I guess it was. I mean, it's crazy.
it's sports Groundhog Day, y'all.
Yeah, that's nuts. And it's funny because you had the kid that was at Milwaukee who pretty much decided he wanted out. That there's a chance that would have been his start, maybe,
Right.
had he still been
Right.
around, on opening night. But that's an interesting situation. How long has UC's health been an issue, or is this something that we just learned about here in the last little bit?
We just learned about it this morning at practice. Apparently, he tweaked something in the first period of the last preseason game against Carolina. It is not said to be anything significant. There's no concern that this is going to be a long-term injury. But there is the possibility that he may not start tomorrow. He's listed officially as day to day, and we know it is a lower body injury. We talked to UC after practice today, and he's saying, look, it felt better yesterday. It feels better today. And Andrew Brunette says, I'm going to evaluate and see how he feels tomorrow. So we could see UC Saros in net. We could also see Scott Wedgwood. And I think that makes for a very interesting opening night against his former team. And you don't quite get the complete look at this Nashville Predators team if UC Saros is not in net. So that's definitely a storyline to watch. And I also think this is a game where you're measuring this Nashville Predators team against a team that could very well be a cup contender. Now, Nashville right out of the gate, again, we talked about it. They're going to need some time to adjust and to gel. So I don't know that if this is a loss, it means all is lost for the Predators. But this is a great test right out of the gate for where Nashville is and where they need to improve.
And I guess we know that the Predators' power play struggles were noted last year. I think back half of the league last year in success rate on the power play. How does Steven Stamkos and his addition make that group any better?
The improvements are going to be big. But again, I feel like they might be delayed a few minutes. Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault automatically add 27 goals on the power play between them from last season. These are two guys who know how to capitalize on special teams, especially Steven Stamkos is very well known for kind of setting up from that circle and a one-timer. It improves the Nashville power play significantly because now a penalty kill has to not only keep track of Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly, but now you have these other two threats, one on the wing, and generally Jonathan Marchessault kind of plays in that high slot area. So this on paper is a much improved power play. Now they do need to work on timing, and that's just going to come with game speed and practice. But I do think by December, you are going to see a much better power play than anything that we saw last season for the Predators.
And then the last thing for me, as we head into the opener tomorrow night, just kind of talk about line construction for this team. Obviously, for those who maybe not watched the preseason games or TV or in person, kind of talk about line construction and the kind of the pairings that'll be together with so many new faces on the roster.
It's been really interesting to watch what Andrew Brunette has opted to do with the lines. Of course, last year, that top line of Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, and Gus Nyquist were incredible. They were one of the best lines in the entire NHL. I think that they were responsible for around 36% of Nashville's goals. So they were very important offensively. We're not touching them. Those three guys are going to stay together. Andrew Brunette's not messing with a good thing. They have Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault playing together with Tommy Novak, who is what some people would consider maybe a late bloomer as a center, but this is somebody who has a very high-end talent. He's a great playmaker. He thinks the game at a level that could be very good with Stamkos and Marchessault. So that's definitely a line to keep your eye on. Third line, you have a couple of young players, Phil Tomasino that I mentioned earlier, and Luke Evangelista with veteran Colton Sissons. And Colton Sissons is your Swiss Army knife. He can do anything. So I think that that's a really good combination. In your fourth line, they did lose Kiefer Sherwood, but in comes a player named Mark Jankowski. Again, maybe not glamorous, but he is going to help that fourth line really set the tone for the games. It's been interesting in practice. We've seen Roman Josi playing a lot with Brady Shea, another new addition. He came from Carolina. But today we saw him with Dante Fabro. So we're going to have to wait and see how Andrew Brunette for sure wants to play those. They only have 6 defensemen on the roster. So we may see Brady Shea with Roman Josi. We may see him with Luke Shen. We're going to have to see how Brunette decides to play them when it comes time for puck drop tomorrow night.
And Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And the Utah Hockey Club made its debut in Salt Lake last night. The former Arizona club. And they defeated Chicago 5-2. Are they going to continue to be the generics, or is there a nickname coming, or what is that situation, first of all?
They are going to have a name that's maybe a little more catchy than Utah Hockey Club, but they're going to wait a season and kind of see what fits. They had some great suggestions, but they went this season with Utah Hockey Club. But I think they're going to be a good enough team that we're going to want something a little spicier next season for them. So we're going to have to wait and see what they come up with next season.
You know, Utah Hockey Club, I mean, it kind of seems soccerish, I guess.
Yes.
But it's different. That's for sure.
It's different.
And I'm sure they're selling some merch, and I'm sure when they roll out the new nickname and mascot next year, they'll sell more merch, and that's certainly not a bad thing for them. But you know, same team, different locale. What were the expectations around the league for this team?
I think expectations were a little bit lower, but I have to tell you, as you have seen this team, you've seen some of their younger players take some steps forward. Connor Ingram, he was the former Nashville Predator goaltender who really has come into his own in Arizona, now in Utah. This is a team to take very seriously. I am willing to tell you that Utah is probably going to be one of the most interesting teams to watch in the entire league this year, because a lot of people didn't have them really doing much. But I think the development of some young players, I think the veteran leadership that they have, this is a team that's going to make a splash in the Central Division. And I think a lot of people will be talking about Utah down the stretch. I like this team. This is a sneaky, under the radar team.
You know, we talked a little bit about Yaroslav Askarov getting traded to San Jose. Has there been much checking in on him? What's his status with San Jose at this point?
Well, he is injured and was sent down to their AHL team, the San Jose Barracuda.
I will just be darned.
So, well, can you only imagine? Yeah. So he is going to be playing in the AHL. He is, again, healing up from an injury. But San Jose, I think, has promised him some looks at the NHL level. And I think maybe that is part of the appeal for him, is maybe he feels like this is going to be a faster track. I will say faster does not always mean easier.
Or better.
But right now, or better. Absolutely. Or better. It just means faster. So right now, he's not made a lot of progress. He's injured. He's going to be playing for the Barracuda in the AHL, which they're not a competitive team or haven't been super competitive the last couple of seasons in the AHL as compared to the Milwaukee Admirals, where he could have been playing, who have made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals 2 seasons in a row. So it's a very interesting choice. We're keeping our eye on him. Godspeed, young man. Let's see how this plays out.
So the San Jose Barracuda, I'm intrigued because I was not aware of their AHL presence. But now, do they share an arena? What is that situation? I'm intrigued by that.
I actually have no idea.
That's
I don't believe that they share. I don't believe they share an arena. But they have been the AHL affiliate for the Sharks for a little while. Again, said with love, but this is a team that has not really been super competitive in the AHL. I believe they may have finished last season like last or next to last in the league. But San Jose also has a lot of young players they're working on developing. So I think you're going to look at a very different season for the Barracuda and for the Sharks in like 3 to 4 seasons, because they really are kind of starting with these young players to develop them up.
There is an article, I just Googled Askarov real quick. There is an article on SanJoseHockeyNow.com, headline, Askarov has no problem being in AHL. So
How about that?
how about that? Go figure. Hoping to be ready by the Barracuda's opener on October 12th, which is what, Saturday?
Yes,
Saturday.
right. Yeah, I think it's Saturday.
Yeah, okay. All right.
How about that?
That's intriguing. That's a very
Yeah.
intriguing situation to me, and something to keep an eye on. Like you said, maybe it is a faster track. Well, it's a shorter track anyway from the San Jose Barracuda to the San Jose Sharks. So maybe it is a faster track for him. And this says that he has the longest contract of any of the NHL ready Sharks goalies. So that apparently is giving him reason for positivity. So
this is going to be an interesting move to look back on in 2 to 3 seasons. And I think in 2 to 3 seasons, you're going to have a pretty good idea of, did he play his cards right or did he miss some opportunities?
Yeah. Okay. Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio. You can find her on Twitter or on X, however you refer to it, as @AnnK_Mama on Ice. In terms of Predator stuff, she's got you covered. Be sure and check her out. And we appreciate it. Bundle up because, well, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But yeah, bundle up tomorrow night. Have fun, and we'll catch up with you.
That sounds great.
All right. When we return to the Lee Company Studios here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we will talk a little baseball. So stay tuned when we come back from this break.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior food serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door. That starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at TOA Columbia. October 9th, 1999, the Braves closed the Astrodome in fine fashion, scoring 7 runs in the first 6 innings and hanging on for a 7-5 victory to defeat the host Houston Astros 3-1 in the National League Division Series. John Smoltz went 2 for 3 and scored a run, pitching into the 7th, and John Rocker got the final 4 outs for the save. That was this day in Braves history.
What we would do to have the Braves playing today, just saying, just makes tears stroll down my eyes.
Fortunately, I was pretty well prepared to not be playing today. So
what'll make it better, and we said this, before we came on the air, and I'm going to publicly say it, my day will be so much better if the Los Angeles Dodgers go home tonight. Just throwing that out there for all the Dodgers. I don't like them. Say what you want about him. I love Mookie Betts. He's a Nashville boy. Love Ohtani. He's a great player. But I'm tired of hearing about them jokers. I'm ready for him to go home.
Tell me how you really feel, D-Dub. Yeah.
That's shooting straight from the hip.
I hear you. Well, I will tell you that the way you feel about the Dodgers, I kind of feel about the Phillies. So as much as it pains me to root for the Mets, at 408, that's probably what I will be doing.
That's like choosing between two evils right there. So Russell Venozzi, our coworker, great guy. He's a big-time Phillies fan. So I pledged my allegiance to him for one series. I said I'll root for the Phillies over the Mets just because if the Mets win this series, they're going to be talking about it forever and ever.
Well, if the Phillies win it, they're going to be talking about it forever. So,
I think the Phillies, it's World Series or bust. That's just my opinion. I don't think they're going to be happy if they just make it to the NLCS. I think we all can agree, and you might not. I think the Padres are one of the hottest teams in baseball. I think that they're going to beat the Dodgers regardless in that series. So I think the Padres are going to represent the National League in the World Series. But I think the Mets fans are more obnoxious than the Phillies fans.
Man, they're both obnoxious as all get out. I'm not sure how you discern between one or the other, to be honest. But yeah, I won't argue with you, but it's 1 and 1A on the obnoxious scale for sure. And to your point, I'm rooting for the Padres to come out of the National League as well. They are, when you talk about evils, they are the lesser of the four. And a byproduct or a convenient added incentive would be that as a Braves fan, you can say that you lost to the National League champ. So there's something to be said for that as well. As we mentioned earlier in the show, Cleveland and Detroit are underway. And Detroit leads 1-0 in the top of the third. Former Main Street media employee Brady McAtamney has to be pleased with that, but it is early.
He is in the stands right now. He is in the right field stands.
Is
Send me a
he?
picture. He is living his best life. Don't ever
Oh,
think he's not.
man.
He sent me a gritty tigs text earlier, so he's ready to go and he's fired up, to say the least.
That's
Motown's
awesome. Good
rocking.
for him. Good for him. I hope he gets to enjoy a win today. That'd be huge. One more reason to root for the Tigers, particularly in this series. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Again, Cleveland and Detroit playing right now. We've got the Phillies and the Mets at 4:08. The Yankees and the host Royals at 6:08, and we will have Heather Williams on later in the show, and it'll be interesting to see how she is attired with her team getting ready to play here later this evening. And then the nightcap at 8:08 again, the Dodgers and the Padres. Speaking of Cleveland, it's been announced that Major League Baseball will produce the local broadcasts for the Guardians as well as for Milwaukee and Minnesota in 2025, as Diamond Sports, who had been responsible for those productions and broadcasts, has chosen not to renew its contracts with those teams. It has getting,
I guess Valley is. Yeah, go ahead.
It's just getting increasingly hard to watch Major League Baseball, and they've got to get that figured out, man. I mean, fortunately, the Braves have kind of been able to avoid to some degree some of these issues, but as a baseball fan, I mean, this does not make your game any easier to consume, and that's an issue.
Right. I mean, I'm a Comcast customer, so there was a 2-month stretch during the middle of the season that we were unable to watch the Braves. And that's been a story and kind of a theme of my life, is to be able to sit down on summer nights to watch the Braves play. And so that was taken away from us this summer. So I know a lot of people were upset with Bally and the Comcast dispute. We saw DirecTV have dispute with ABC and the ESPN networks just a few weeks ago. So it just seems like overall there's a lot of greed and money that is going on with those networks and those stations in particular.
Yeah. Diamond announced last week that it would be dropping the Twins, Brewers, Guardians, and Texas Rangers. Rejected the contracts of the Tigers and Tampa Bay Rays, and has implied that 5 other teams will need to renegotiate their contracts before they expire at the end of next season. So the Rangers will not be with Major League Baseball, but they also don't want to partner with Diamond Sports Group, according to this article on yahoosports.com. So the Rangers are kind of going to go out on their own, it sounds like, and figure this situation out, which, that'll be interesting as well. But I think the point that you make is there's a lot of money out there, and folks are kind of arguing over it in a kind of a foolhardy manner. I mean, there's plenty of money out there. Just get this straight, because eventually fans are going to get irritated to the point that they're just going to go away.
Right. And I'll say this, I enjoy watching the Milwaukee broadcasts. I think Brian Anderson, who does the TBS playoffs with Jeff Rancourt, he does a phenomenal job calling the game. He's very descriptive. I love listening to him. So it's not like those games are, hard to watch. It's not like the announcers are hard to listen to. There's some great baseball being played, particularly in Milwaukee. They've always had great teams. Minnesota was on the verge of making, there's good teams and there's good products out there that people want to watch. So you have to make it available for people to do that.
Yeah, no question. Hopefully they can get this figured out. David, a a piece of news that I'm sure is near and dear to your heart as one of your side gigs. The Nashville Sounds announced yesterday that minor league baseball has honored that franchise with its inaugural Driving Diversity Award. The club's efforts to support Nashville community, creating welcome environments for all fans, recognized in minor league baseball's first ever diversity award. This was presented during the minor league baseball business summit over in Charlotte earlier this week with Nashville Sounds general manager and chief operating officer Adam English, friend of the show, accepting. The award recognizes the Sounds in their efforts of welcoming fans of all backgrounds through a variety of programming intended to reach minority groups in their communities throughout the 2024 season. And there is a release on the website nashvillesounds.com that highlights all of the different initiatives that the Sounds have taken part in an effort to reach virtually every demographic and every part of the Nashville and the mid-state community. And it's really cool, some of the stuff that they've done. The 9 initiative, minor league baseball's the 9 initiative, which recognized Black baseball trailblazers, is something that the Sounds really embraced. They did a bobblehead for Henry Kimbrough this past year, played as the Elite Giants on a couple of occasions in recognition of Nashville's Negro League team. They've done stuff for just a number of different communities and again demographics, and some that you might not even consider. They welcome the Sertoma Club, which helps kids with hearing loss and communication disorders. First Horizon Park is a certified sensory inclusive facility through Culture City, the first sports venue sensory inclusive city with all participating teams with sensory inclusivity training and having a sensory room, which I know makes things a lot easier for parents who have special needs youngsters that need that extra. And just the links that the Sounds have gone to be inclusive across a number of different demographics and communities. I think it's awesome what they've done, and I think it's awesome that they are being recognized for it in such a manner.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I missed the night, the couple nights where they dressed up as the Giants this year, but just to see them don the old Negro League throwbacks is really cool. And all the things they do in the community. You mentioned all the foundations and things that they do for the community. I think about just the college nights they do, whether it's Tennessee State, Lipscomb, Belmont, Vanderbilt. They always try to do a part of bringing together the community, and that's a phenomenal job that Adam, Doug Scopel, and that entire staff do for the entire community.
Yeah. Prior to the season, they hosted a sports management class with Tennessee State University for an immersive week of learning from the front office staff, with those students receiving credit for the week-long course through the HBCU's Human Performance and Sports Science department, focused on a different department each day. The Sounds partner with the Black Sports Business Academy, providing mentorship to HBCU students looking to break into the sports industry, which is not an easy industry to break into, by the way. So any help that anybody can provide along those lines, I'm sure is welcome. And so again, this is it's great that Adam, like you said, Adam and Doug and the Sounds are doing this, and it's certainly not something that they do for the recognition, but at the same time, when you're making those type of efforts, and you do get recognized for them. And this is, again, the first awarding of this recognition, this Driving Diversity Award. And so the Sounds are the inaugural winners thereof. So again, congratulations to Adam and to Doug and to the Sounds and everybody involved with this. This is really great, I think. So that's good stuff. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back to the Lee Company studios, it's the grab bag, as David and I kind of get you up to date on a number of different topics across the sports landscape here on this Wednesday. And remember, final segment of the day, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. So stay tuned for that again in the final segment of the show. Let's take this break. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with David Wilson. Wade Neely should rejoin us tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. It's time for the grab bag as we get into hour number 2 of the show. And let's start right here. As the Titans have made a couple of moves ahead of Sunday's matchup with Indianapolis. One of them is elevating offensive tackle Leroy Watson the fourth to the 53-man roster off of the practice squad, following John Ajokwu's being waived yesterday. The other, and this is the more intriguing move to me, is that veteran NFL backup Trevor Siemian has been signed to the Titans practice squad. The 32-year-old Siemian, this will be his second practice squad stint with the Titans. He was here in 2020 as well. He's also been with the Broncos, Vikings, Jets, Saints, Bears, and Bengals over his career. 33 career starts, 40 career games, 7,700 yards, 44 touchdowns, and 32 picks. 15 and 18 as a starter. Was with Callahan in 2015 when he was a rookie with the Broncos. Siemian was also in training camp with the Bengals last year, so Callahan has some familiarity with Siemian. And obviously, I think the takeaway from this is that there is some concern still regarding the shoulder injury that Will Levis suffered in that game at Miami prior to the bye week, and the injury that forced him out of the game, forced Mason Rudolph to come off the bench, and depending on who you ask, led to the Titans' lone victory of the season.
Yeah, and the first time they scored 30 points in 2 years? So
38 games. So yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Just there's questions about Levis's ability or availability, on Sunday against maybe ability too against the Colts on Sunday. It just gives them an insurance option if they need to elevate Trevor Siemian off the practice squad and make him the second or the backup quarterback rather for Sunday's action. But I think you hit the nail on the head as well that he's very familiar to the Titans organization, not with Rand Carthon. You have to remember that was John Robinson's time as GM, but he is familiar, as you mentioned, with Brian Callahan, kind of the system that he likes to run. So if he needs to get brought up to speed very quickly to be an insurance policy, emergency quarterback, whatever slang and vernacular you want to use, he can do that. So, and I don't know if I'd have to listen to the press conference today. I don't know if Levis has thrown the football yet. Last week was the bye. He got treatment, but I heard he did not throw last week. So I'm not even sure if he's thrown passes off that injured shoulder yet to be available to play on Sunday. So that might be something worth monitoring and listening to Brian Callahan's press conference from this earlier this afternoon.
Was that a Freudian slip, David?
Probably.
Levis's ability?
Well, he's like that Ferrari you have in the garage, right? It looks good. It has all the tools. It has the parts. It has the bells and whistles. But I think the one knock you can have on Levis is decision making, and can you coach that out of somebody? So that's a whole nother conversation.
That's the $1 million question, though, and I've been asking it. I don't know, and I guess we're going to find out. Watson is intriguing.
The options just get better and better on that offensive line, don't they?
Played in 7 games in Cleveland last year. As a rookie, he was with the 49ers on their practice squad after initially signing with the Falcons as an undrafted free agent. Played 46 snaps in Tennessee's preseason game against Seattle. Was a tight end in college at Texas San Antonio. 27 career catches, 297 yards, and 2 touchdowns after starting his career at the junior college level at Hutchinson in Kansas.
If it shows
Yeah,
you anything, he has some
it's
athleticism if he plays tight
never.
end. But I think that's the one thing you trust Bill Callahan. You call him the offensive line Jesus, and his ability to mold and shape. He has for familiarity with him from his time in Cleveland last year. So you bring him in, take a flyer on him just because he's familiar with the blocking scheme, systems of that nature.
Yeah, you kind of trust Big Coach, as friend of the show, New Bias Wilborn has called him. You kind of trust Bill Callahan along these lines, and the fact that he has already done some work with him when they were both in Cleveland kind of helps bolster his resume, I guess, as the Titans consider their options up front, because Lord knows they need some. So, Wade and I have talked at various points over the course of this preseason about the New England Patriots quarterback situation, because, with a first-year coach in Gerard Mayo and a veteran quarterback in Jacoby Brissett and the number 3 pick in Drake May, and speaking of bad offensive lines, a subpar offensive line, you didn't necessarily mind running a veteran quarterback out behind that line. But apparently, with New England sitting at 1-4, it's been decided that Drake May is going to be QB1 this weekend when the Patriots go to Houston to take on the Texans, including former Patriot Shaq Mason at offensive guard. But it's again interesting for all of the reasons that they offered up as to why they weren't playing May earlier. Why now is the time? And Mayo said at his press conference earlier today, Drake gives us the best chance to win now and going forward. He's been getting better every single week. As I've said before, at the end of training camp, he was trending at a very high rate, and that has continued in the early part of the season. It was solely my decision to make this choice.
I'll say this. We don't, being in Nashville, Tennessee, get the opportunity to watch a lot of Patriots games on national television. I did get to see them a couple weeks ago when they played the Jets on Thursday Night Football. And I mean, their offense, say what you want about Jacoby Brissett, he's a really good backup quarterback in this league. There's not a lot of parts and pieces on that offense that stand out to stretch the field, challenge the defense. They have Ramondre Stevenson at the running back position, but there is no really wide receiver depth up there to make a quarterback's life a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
Drake May did come into that game in a mop-up duty late in that game, and there were some throws and decisions that he even made then in his first appearance that were kind of questionable for a rookie quarterback. So, the Patriots won their first game of the year at Cincinnati, and they've lost 4 straight. But, as a rookie quarterback, he's going to get baptized by fire. I don't expect him to come in and set the world on fire like Jaden Daniels has done in Washington. He has way more pieces over there with Cliff Kingsbury and crew up in Washington than Drake May has in New England. So this is a multi-year rebuild. I don't think Mayo's seat is by chance any warm. He's a rookie head coach. But that cupboard is very bare talent-wise offensively.
Very bare. Yeah, I mean, these are not the Patriots that spring to mind when you say Patriots. But I mean, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady ain't coming through that door, obviously, and so that's kind of part of the reason they are where they are. But again, the concerns with this offensive line that you didn't want to put a rookie quarterback behind at the start of the season, I'm not sure that those concerns have gotten any better over these first 5 games. So
yeah, they have to draft better too. I think the one downside with Belichick is, say what you want about his coaching ability, Bill Belichick, the GM, took a lot of reaches and a lot of chances on guys that maybe did not pan out in the recent drafts. So it's left that roster bereft of talent. Even with Tom Brady leaving, they really kind of trended downward of late, as you mentioned, just because there's not a lot of talent on that roster. There's not a lot of guys that you think of Patriots, hey, I would like to have that guy on my team. So
yeah.
That's end all be all.
Yeah, and it'll you just hope for the best for a young quarterback in that situation. And I mean, it's not like it's okay for them to be bad in front of Brissett. I mean, but at least he's a veteran. He kind of knows a little bit better that it just kind of comes with the territory. His confidence isn't necessarily going to get beat down. You know, his body's not necessarily going to get beat down to the degree that a Drake May, who this time last year was playing in North Carolina, would. So yep, it'll bear watching for sure. Former NFL Network contributor Jim Trotter has dropped his lawsuit, I guess, against the National Football League. Both parties have considered the lawsuit resolved, I guess. Trotter basically sued because he felt like Roger Goodell took punitive action against him when he was with the NFL Network for, calling Goodell out twice over representation issues in the newsroom with the NFL Network during Super Bowl press conferences. And I think a number of people would have really liked to have seen a court trial on this, just to kind of see what Jim Trotter had to, support his assertions regarding the NFL and retaliation and that kind of thing. And it kind of feels like the NFL got off a little light by not having that stuff aired out in the light of day. But at the same time, Trotter has created a foundation, the Work Plan Pray Foundation, empowering today's youth to become tomorrow's leaders in sports journalism and sports management. And he was really motivated to do this during the time that he spent as a journalist in San Diego, working alongside Chargers linebacker Junior Seau. So the fact that this foundation is a result of the resolution of Jim Trotter's suit against the National Football League kind of makes it a little easier to take, I guess. But again, a lot of us would like to have seen just what it was that he had to bring against Goodell and the NFL. But at the same time, who wants to go through all that if you can get some sort of resolution that you can live with? And clearly Jim did. So congratulations to him. This is a nonprofit designed to aid students at HBCUs with scholarships and resources, again, as they pursue degrees in sports journalism and sports management. So it's great that he's able to establish something like this as a result of his work and what the NFL had attempted to do with his work. So Jim's one of the top NFL journalists in the country, and one of the top journalists in the country, period. He's working for The Athletic now, I believe, and doing some great stuff. So this is good to see, and probably the lesser of two evils, as going to trial probably would have been, while worth watching, would have been pretty stressful as well, I'd imagine. The WNBA down to two teams following the Lynx' 88-77 win over Connecticut last night in Game 5 of that semifinal series. So you got a quick turn now as Minnesota goes to the New York Liberty tomorrow night for Game 1 of the WNBA Championship Series.
Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu have been phenomenal for Liberty this year. They took out the team close to my heart, the Aces. I think we were all hoping for the three-peat with Becky Hammond and
Really
my girl,
were.
Plum.
Yeah.
So, but New York's a really good team, and we kind of talked about this the last time I was on here. Becky Hammond said, the Aces headspace wasn't in the right space the whole year. With the kind of the publicity they've gotten the last couple of years of winning the WNBA championship. So we'll have a new champion this year, that's for sure.
We will. And, it's interesting. The Liberty feels like the favorites in this championship series, but, the Lynx defeated the Liberty to win the Commissioner's Cup earlier this year, and have played pretty well against the Liberty throughout the season. I'm looking for their record in that series. Minnesota won 2 of 3 regular season games, and they won the Commissioner's Cup championship game. So 3 or 4 meetings this year have gone to the Lynx. So I'm not sure exactly why it feels like the Liberty is the favorite, but it does. And to your point, Ionescu and Stewie have been fantastic all year long, but so is Nafisa Collier. 27-11 in last night's win.
Yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of star power on the Liberty. Maybe it's the New York market as well that we hear more about them than Minnesota. But as you mentioned, Collier's a really good player as well. There's a lot of top end talent at the WNBA, and that's what's made the game grow so much. Is there's stars now, and I think Caitlin Clark. We'll talk about her in a minute. Angel Reese. They've just kind of magnified people's attention on the WNBA, and they realize there is some good basketball being played there.
Not just Nafisa Collier either. Courtney Williams is one of the better point guards or combo guards probably in the WNBA, and she's been a nice complementary piece to Collier, particularly here in this postseason. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this matchup. But like you said, this Liberty team, when you add Jonquel Jones and Vandersloot to Stewart and Ionescu, it's kind of a surprise that Minnesota has taken 3 or 4 from them this season, but they've got that track record. I guess this is a best of 5, and I'd be shocked if it didn't go the distance. So looking forward to that. Again, Game 1 tomorrow night. As you mentioned, Caitlin apparently she's a pretty big golf fan to start with, and she will be playing in an LPGA Pro-Am ahead of the Annika event, Annika Sorenstam's event, and she will be a panelist prior to that tournament Pro-Am event at the Women's Leadership Summit. So Caitlin continuing to be out in the public eye, and good for her. I mean, kind of just continuing to bring attention to her sport. But I love golf, so the opportunity to play in the Pro-Am for a tournament with a legend like Annika Sorenstam's name on it is so exciting. Looking forward to seeing all the LPGA players on the driving range, being part of the Women's Leadership Summit, and of course teeing it up in the Pro-Am with Annika. The Women's Leadership Summit is November 12th, followed by the Pro-Am event at Pelican Golf Club, which I presume is in Bel Air, Florida, because that's the dateline on this Associated Press story. But that's a pretty big deal, I would think. Again, continuing to stay out there and stay relevant, as if her relevance is going to change at this point. Let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we will be joined by Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. This is David's favorite segment, by the way, coming up as we talk a little NASCAR. So stay tuned after this break.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's David Wilson. In our final segment, we will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Right now, we are joined by our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. And it looks like she's got on Kansas City Royals blue today. There we go. In anticipation of tonight's game 3 of the ALDS with the Yankees. So
didn't want to let you down, Mo. I came prepared.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have expectations for you. So that's good stuff. Hey,
Monday was a difficult night for me to decide what to wear, though, by the way.
I'm kind of surprised you don't have like a Royals Chiefs combo.
I don't. And I was angry on Monday. I looked like I was dressed for the 4th of July because I had on red and blue. People kept coming up to me all day going, "You look very patriotic." And I was like, no. Royals Chiefs. We're rocking it.
There you go. Hey, I know you've been busy the last little bit with the post-Hurricane Helene situation up in Northeast Tennessee and Western North Carolina. How are things coming as far as that goes? I mean, I don't want to say are things getting back to normal, but are things getting better for folks up there?
Well, there are communities that are, to be frank with you, gone. I mean, just completely wiped off the map. So, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be months before, it's back to normal. Interstate 26 is still shut down. Interstate 40 is still shut down and will be for months because the bridges were just washed away. Whole communities were washed away. You know, the response has been unbelievable, and just the donations and the help that are given. So I think people are starting to get to where they have a place to sleep, where they have electricity or water. The town of Greenville was without water because the floods washed away their water treatment plant. So, those things are happening, but there are families and communities that will never be the same because everything that they had was washed away. I mean, whole houses washed off their foundations and just down the river. So, it's going to be a while. I will say, for those that are, that made it out thankfully with their lives, and there were deaths, but not as many as were feared initially. But for those that did, they're starting to get clothes and food and a place to stay. But, it's going to be a while before things get back to normal for sure. Like Hampton High School is their football field, their gym, and a lot of their schools gone. Their kids are going to start going back to school whenever they go back to school at an old elementary school, because the high school is not inhabitable and probably not repairable. So there's a lot, but it's going to be a while before those communities are back to quote unquote normal.
Well, just want to let y'all know that you're in our thoughts. I mean, it's a catastrophic event. It's a tragic event beyond belief, really, especially, when you consider where it happened. And
Yeah.
so,
And me and my coworkers, we're very lucky for the most part. None of us really had any damage. I do have a friend that works in Asheville, works with me on my NASCAR coverage for the corporation, and his house was destroyed. He and his wife are living in a hotel in Charlotte. He's commuting to Asheville every day because a tree went right through his roof and just split his home in half. So, but again, he's just thankful that his wife and his dog, and he was at work, but they survived. Like, they got out. So, celebrating the small victories, and people are just slowly putting the pieces back together, and praying for those that lost loved ones. I think that's the biggest tragedy. That the homes, the things, the high schools, all that, those can all be replaced. But the 19 people died in East Tennessee, and thankfully none in Southwest Virginia, even though there was some bad flooding there as well. That's where my prayers go, because obviously those lives can't be replaced.
absolutely. Turning our attention to NASCAR, non-playoff drivers are continuing to create chaos, I guess. First, Ross Chastain winning at Kansas a couple of weeks ago, and now Ricky Stenhouse Jr. winning at Talladega this past weekend. You love to see it, right?
I mean, when it comes to sports, don't we love chaos? Isn't that why we love March Madness? Isn't that why, unless you're a Yankees fan, you love seeing the Royals beating the Yankees? I mean, because it causes chaos, and who doesn't love chaos? Now, being a Chiefs fan, I don't want chaos in the NFL. The NFL can say chalk as much as it wants to, but I do love the chaos in NASCAR, because there's only one driver that's safe. William Byron has pointed his way into the second round, but all the rest of the 12 drivers that are competing to advance the round of 8, none of them are safe going into the Charlotte Roval, which is, it's not a total wild card like Talladega. You definitely have to have skill to make it around there, but because some people don't have skill, it's very easy to get caught up in somebody else's mess there, or to get caught up because somebody else has a wreck in some bad pit strategy or whatever. So, there's an uneasy feeling for a lot of drivers as they head to the Roval. And the guys that really need good performances are the guys that are at the guys that really need good performances are the guys that are below the cut line. The guys that you think of the playoff drivers that could win there are the guys that are currently, below the cut line. Tyler Reddick is an outstanding road course driver. Austin Cindric, who is last place in the playoff drivers, he's an outstanding road course driver. So there's a real good chance that this could be turned upside down, and that the 4 drivers that are currently out won't be the 4 drivers that miss the cut.
There you go. Chaos.
Just chaos.
Chaos. Yeah.
That's chaos.
Yeah.
We love chaos.
David, I know you got something. Jump on in here, man.
Yeah, Heather, glad for you to be joining us again. We talked a couple months ago about Team Toyota and the Toyota camp in particular. Since then, obviously, Ty Gibbs and Martin Truex Jr. are out of the playoffs. And Tyler Reddick has really kind of been struggling the last couple weeks after winning the regular season championship. Denny Hamlin had to use a really good run at Bristol to survive the round of 16. So just kind of talk about where the Toyota camp is at right now. Obviously, you mentioned Reddick being on the bubble as we head into the Roval, which, a non-playoff driver, and AJ Allmendinger won last year. So talk about Team Toyota for us real quick.
Well, I think a lot of people were asking why Toyota was not performing very well. Now, I think in the case of Tyler Reddick and Martin Truex Jr., Ty Gibbs and Martin Truex Jr., they weren't really performing all that well as the regular season came to an end. And so their elimination in the first round was not that surprising. They both got off to great starts, but had kind of tapered off. But I think what's happened to Denny Hamlin and Tyler Reddick specifically surprised a lot of people. I think, Christopher Bell's been performing really well. He's kind of the outlier when it comes to the Toyotas. He's won that before, so he's in pretty good shape. But then when you look at what happened over the past week with the announcement that 2311 is suing NASCAR, and I'm sure that's something that we'll want to get into here, and we can get into the specifics of that after I answer this question. But I think when you look at that, then you start to understand why those teams aren't performing so well on the track. As much as they try to act like it's not a huge distraction, it's got to be an enormous distraction when you are suing the racing league in which you are racing. And so I think that specifically Denny, and that trickles down to Tyler because he's their owner. He's the owner. I just think their eye is not completely on the ball as much as he wants to be able to put 7 balls in the air and juggle them all. It's really difficult to do that. And I think it's showing up in their performance. Now, Denny got incredibly lucky last week because he was so bad. He was way behind, off the pace, when the entire field wrecked each other, like 23 cars. I think it was the most cars ever in a wreck at Talladega. That he ended up salvaging a top 10 finish out of it because everybody else in front of him wrecked. Like literally everybody in front of him wrecked. So he got fortunate in that respect, and Tyler did too, and he was able to not be completely blown away. But they're not running well right now, and I can't help but think that that's because of the things that are going on off the track.
Heather Williams of WCYB. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, David. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go.
Yeah, you're good. Last thing before we get into the 2311 front row saga with NASCAR, we saw this at Watkins Glen in the first round of the playoffs. There's that dilemma if you're a playoff driver this week. Do you try to point your way in, or do you're just far back enough where it's almost a must-win territory? So when you look at the guys that are trying to advance to the next round, who do you think is going to try to point their way in and take advantage of the stage points, or maybe the guys who are in a must-win scenario as we hit the Roval this weekend?
I think when you look at the standings, from about Denny Hamlin or Ryan Blaney up, so maybe William Byron's locked in, but then maybe the next 4 or 5 drivers, they're probably going out there with the attitude, especially since not a lot of them are great road course drivers. Blaney's run on the road course. Obviously, Kyle Larson's a pretty good road course driver, but Denny's not very good for sure. That they're going to go out there with the attitude of just trying to get as many stage points as they can. And then if they can be in contention to win, that's a bonus. But then below then, I think most of those guys are going to show up and try to win. Definitely Austin Cindric needs to go in there and win. Probably Chase Briscoe needs to go in there and win. And so I think it's just easier to advance when you're that far back, and not even points wise, but just so many drivers that you have to jump. I think it's easier to advance if you just go into Charlotte with the attitude of winning. But there'll probably be a couple of drivers, maybe, depending on how qualifying goes, if a driver just absolutely somehow makes his way to the front that didn't think they were going to be there and qualify, name a points race, because it is possible for everyone, but I think technically Cindric, but it would be really difficult for him, for the rest of them to point their way in. So, if they start up front and are in a position to grab some early stage points, I think they'll do that, even if it puts them out of pit cycle to go for the win, because whatever your strategy is, you need to get as many points as you can to advance to the next round.
Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today. And as both she and David mentioned, Wade and I tried to talk our way through the 2311/Front Row Motorsports actions against NASCAR in court, or the legal filings that they've made regarding charters. And I'm sure that we botched it quite royally, but Heather, I'm sure you can bring some clarity to that situation for us. Please do.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit when I was on here, when we talked about how all the teams but 2311 and Front Row had signed the charters. And this is all about those charters and what their worth are. They're not franchises. So, if you buy a piece of the Tennessee Titans, if you're an owner, if you own the franchise, that's yours in perpetuity. You can sell it as a whole. You can sell it off in pieces, whatever you want to do to, have the value of that company. In NASCAR, the charters aren't franchises. You don't own them forever. NASCAR has the right to eliminate the charter system. And so, but these charters are going for an insane amount of money. I believe last year, BJ McLeod, when he signed his charter or sold his charter, I think he got something like $40 million for it. And the thing that Jordan and Denny Hamlin and Bob Jenkins, who's from Morristown, businessman, Morristown, Tennessee, the thing that they're the three that are kind of the leaders in all this. What they want is for them to be more like franchises. It's not a coincidence that both those teams are in the process of purchasing new charters. They want to expand their business, but they want it to mean something, right? I mean, if I plop $40 million on something, I want to be able to sell that at some point or keep it, pass it down to my children, whatever my plan is for that $40 million purchase. I don't want in 7 years when the charter agreement comes up for NASCAR to be able to say, yeah, we're not going to do charters anymore. So that $40 million piece of paper that you have means nothing. So that's really what this is about, is giving some more tangible value to the charters. And there's much, much more. This lawsuit, which is basically, a antitrust lawsuit. I mean, they're calling them a monopoly, lays out a lot of things. It's a wild read, and I've only read parts of it, but it's they go way back in the Wayback Machine on things that have happened in NASCAR. But that's their goal. They want to make these teams, and their argument is there's been so many teams, even in the charter era, that haven't been able to sustain and have come and gone. And they want these charters to be more like franchises and something that can stick around in the sport for a long time. They want longevity. Obviously, Jordan and Denny Hamlin specifically have invested a lot of money in the sport. They built an unbelievable Taj Mahal they don't even call it a race shop. It's called Airspeed, where they assemble their cars, Air for Michael Jordan and Speed for Denny Hamlin. And, they want that to mean something. They don't want to, because of whatever goes on in the sport, they don't want that to, in 7 years when this charter agreements have, not be worth anything. So that's kind of the basics, like the ground level basics of this lawsuit, which is actually a lot more complicated than just that, but that's kind of the biggest issue.
Given that, as so often happens in so many different walks of life, this is the way we've done it.
Right.
Do you see anything changing? I mean, do 2311 and Front Row have a shot?
They've got a shot, I think, and the thing that's interesting about this is that a lot of the teams signed it, and apparently, this is other people's reporting. This isn't my reporting, but apparently, those teams that signed the charter agreement, part of that charter agreement was they waived the right to be able to sue. So none of these teams that have signed the agreement can join the lawsuit at this point. Don't believe. And the other thing that's interesting is that you have a lot of mix of people, because there were, I think it's 23 initial charters that were given out, somewhere in that range, 23, 26, to teams that had been in the sport, competing on a full-time basis when they invented the charter thing. And those teams paid nothing for those charters. So you have owners that have charters that are worth $43 million that they didn't pay a dime for. You have teams that have charters that they paid $43 million for a charter that may not be worth a dime. So you've got people working on completely different agendas as well. But some of those guys, Richard Childress had a really interesting interview with Bob Pockris. He's a guy that didn't pay for his charters, but he absolutely sees where 2311 is coming from. And he even, mentioned that he felt a little bit pressured to sign this charter agreement, because NASCAR basically told them that if they didn't sign this charter agreement, according to the lawsuit, according to what Richard said in his interview, if they didn't sign this charter agreement by X amount of days, then NASCAR had the right to revoke their charter at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So, these guys, you can't make money really running as an open car in NASCAR. If you're a charter car, it pays more. So those charters are very valuable as far as sustainability in the sport. So the first thing that 2311 and Front Row Motorsports has done is that they have asked for an injunction, asking the courts to not allow NASCAR to yank those charters as part of this lawsuit. So that's the first step in this. Mm-hmm. They have to the end of the year to figure that out, because their charters are good through the end of the year per the previous agreement. But it's going to be interesting, and it could get messy. And I think it took someone like Michael Jordan to be kind of the face of this lawsuit to be able to carry it out, because he's a guy that racing is not his whole business, right? He's got a whole other business that is very financially stable and makes him a lot of money and makes him a gajillionaire. So if he loses this and somehow loses the racing business, he's lost money, but he hasn't lost, what brings home the bacon for him. And right. He's a face, and he's a tremendous face that people outside the NASCAR world recognize. So it also brings attention to this. So I think it took someone like Jordan to make this happen. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this all goes down.
It's really intriguing. And like you said, with Jordan's involvement in it, it feels like it's going to bring some eyes to it that might otherwise not necessarily pay attention to it. So it's an intriguing situation for sure. Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance, talking NASCAR. Heather, we appreciate it. I don't mind saying go Royals. And
unless you're a Yankees fan, you got to be go Royals, right?
No, I am most certainly not a Yankees fan. So yeah, I got no problem saying go Royals. And we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday as we talk about getting down to 8 drivers by then. Yeah. I guess, right?
I plan on being in Charlotte unless something else happens over the next week. I can't ever say, after the last couple of weeks, I can't ever say 100% I'm going to do something, but my plan is to be down there to talk to the guys that made the cut, that didn't make the cut. It could be a wild race for sure.
Okay, now tell me something. Going back to where we started this segment, from where you are, how would you normally go to Charlotte, and how will you go to Charlotte now, or is it the same?
It's the same, because where the track is located in Charlotte, it's actually easier and quicker. I don't like going through the mountains anyway, unless it's just the absolute quickest way to go there. And it's actually easier and quicker from where our station is located, specifically to just go through Virginia and then cut across. Yeah. So that's the way that I would normally go. And that's the way I plan on going. The only thing that's really cut off is Asheville. And actually, they've got a detour set up. It just takes a while. You have to kind of wind around through parts of Irwin and Unicoi County around where the bridge is out. So the rest of 26 there is open.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. We'll be safe, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Thanks, guys.
All right. When we return to the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it's the final segment of the day. It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Stick around.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Back to Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Uh-oh. I'm Maurice Patton. That's an empty chair. David Wilson will be back momentarily. Here as we wrap up Wild and Wacky Wednesday. It's the final segment of the day. It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday as we bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. And I don't want to start without David, but what I'll do is I will go to my second story because I know he's going to want to hear this first. Oh, he's back. He's back. Back in the saddle is David Wilson.
Sorry about
There we
that.
go. No, it's all good. It was a short break. I didn't want to start without you because I knew you were going to want to hear this first story. Former Vandy boy Walker Bueller, who, if I recall correctly, is a native of Lexington, Kentucky. And here in just a second, you'll see why that's significant. Before Walker lost Game 3 of the National League Division Series last night against San Diego, Walker lost his watch. During a visit to Santa Anita Park on September 28th, Santa Anita Park is a horse track. Again, the former Vanderbilt pitcher was robbed of his watch. A victim was walking among a large crowd of patrons. While walking within the crowd, the victim was encircled by a group of unknown suspects, according to a report by Arcadia Police. These suspects limited the movement of the victim, creating confusion. While the movement of the victim was limited, one of the suspects was able to remove the victim's watch from their wrist. After removing the watch, the group of suspects dispersed and left the arena. At that time, the victim realized their watch was stolen and reported the incident to Santa Anita Park security. At no time during the incident was the victim threatened. This wasn't the first, or it wasn't the only incident that took place at the horse racing facility on this particular day, September 28th specifically. Another victim had their watch stolen while walking through a large crowd. They didn't realize until several hours later that they had lost their watch. A third incident involved a victim being approached one suspect attempted to embrace the victim. As a second began removing the victim's watch, the victim realized his watch was being removed, and when confronted, the suspects fled the area. So, one of the suspects was actually taken into custody, charged with felony grand theft and with possessing a fraudulent Social Security card.
So
Police
I
did not.
read more of the story earlier, and I think it's important to note that this happened before the playoffs. This
Yeah.
happened the last week of the regular season, and Walker was supposed to be on the plane to Colorado. I think their last series of the year was in Colorado. Well, I think he made a start before, a couple days before, so he didn't make the trip. So I
Right.
think that's important to note. And it says his wife was also with
With
him
him.
while he attended the horse racing. So I know they're happy to be safe, first of all, but all victim of a snatch and grab.
That's crazy. I mean, you would like to think that if someone is touching you to remove something from your body that you would know, but some of those folks are so slick and so good, man, that you clearly don't. That's wild and wacky.
Now on the jokingly front, I could say, well, how expensive was the watch?
Well,
Because I would
I
notice.
mean,
I noticed if it cost me some coin.
yeah, but coin to you and coin to Walker Bueller ain't the same coin either.
Who's about to have a free agency payday here soon? So
yeah.
I wish I had his
mean,
problems. Just saying, I wish I had his problems.
first world problems for sure. Wade and I talked to you before Wade left town about Fat Bear Week, where viewers of a website can vote for their favorite fat bear. This is in Alaska as bears get ready for the hibernation period. That contest has concluded, and for the second year in a row, Mama Bear Grazer is your winner of Fat Bear Week. And this is pretty cool on a couple of fronts because, again, 128 Grazer received more than 70,000 votes compared to her opponent, 32 Chunks, 30,000 votes. This is the second year in a row that Grazer has defeated Chunk in the finals of Fat Bear Week. A couple of months ago, two of Grazer's cubs, again, she's a mama bear, two of her cubs fell over a waterfall in Katmai National Park in Alaska and were carried downstream. One of the cubs was attacked by Chunk, and well, both the cubs were attacked. One died from its injuries that were inflicted by Chunk. The other cub was in the Fat Bear Junior competition this week as well. So Grazer kind of exacted a little bit of revenge on Chunk with her second straight Fat Bear Week win. So congratulations to her. Unfortunately, 747 Colbert lost his initial face-off, I guess, in the quarterfinals. Colbert named for night talk show host Stephen Colbert. So kind of cute. It's crazy that
y'all are wild, the stuff y'all get into. Good
hey
grief.
man, this is crazy stuff, isn't it? From Massachusetts comes the story of Nibi, Nibi, a baby beaver. Say that 3 times fast. Who apparently is currently with a rescue group that took her in at quite a young age. I mean, she's 2 years old now, but even younger than that. And there is some type of controversy as to whether she can stay with her rescuers at Newhouse Wildlife Rescue north of Boston, or if she's going to have to be released into the wild, where the concern is that she's not been in the wild and is incapable of, taking care of herself in that environment. An online petition to prevent Neeby's release has received more than 25,000 signatures, and even the governor, Maura Healey, has pledged to make sure that Neeby is protected and taken care of. It's the rescue group, a spokesperson for it, says it's very difficult to consider releasing her when she only seems to like people and seems to have no interest in being wild or bonding with any of her species. She has a large enclosure with a pool and will wander in the yard and rehab space. The rescue group has requested a permit for Neeby to become an educational bear, which would allow them to take her to schools, libraries, and town halls, but that permission was denied and her release was ordered. I'm not sure who denied it or how that works, but this just kind of seems like a common sense situation. I don't know what is to be gained by releasing Neeby.
Can't say no to that face.
Exactly. I mean, why would you want to? So, yeah, let's save Neeby. Hashtag save Neeby. Finally, as I look at the clock, I'm pretty sure this will be our last wild and wacky of the day. There is a town in Colorado that you don't have to worry about me going to.
I'll second that one.
La Junta, I guess. La Junta. I don't think it's La Junta. I'm pretty sure it's La Junta, Colorado. It's tarantula mating season, and scientists, spider enthusiasts, and curious Colorado families piled into buses recently to go to this town to view mating tarantulas. I got no desire to be a part of that. For residents of the town, though, tarantulas aren't the nightmarish creatures often depicted on the silver screen. Yeah, whatever. They're an important part of the local ecosystem and a draw for people around the U.S. who might otherwise have never visited the tight-knit town in southeastern Colorado. Haven't, won't. Apparently, tarantulas burrow in the largely undisturbed prairies of the Comanche National Grassland, and in September and October, that's mating season. The mating males wander in search of a female's burrow, which he typically marks with silk webbing. Peak viewing time is an hour before dusk when the heat of the day dies down. They saw at least a dozen tarantulas on the road. Like I said, I'll not be visiting La Junta, Colorado.
That seems like a destination for Wade. So,
I'm
sure we can sign him up for that.
I'm not sure how Wade feels about spiders, but I know how I feel about them. Now, they say that tarantulas tend to be docile creatures. Their venom is not considered dangerous to humans, but can cause pain and irritation. When you encounter them, they're more afraid of you. Tarantulas only bite out of fear. This is the only way that they have to protect themselves. And if you don't put them in a situation where they feel like they have to bite, then there is no reason to fear them. Yeah, okay. Okay, whatever. I'm not taking the chance. I'm not going to La Junta. Count me out. Y'all, that's going to do it for Wild and Wacky Wednesday. That's going to do it for Main Street Sports today here on Main Street, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I think I will be joined by Wade Neely tomorrow. Tune in at 2 o'clock to see. We'll see y'all then.